Youth unemployment in Kenya remains a concern as more of them flood the job market every year. CNBC Africa now speaks to Lutz Ziob, the Dean of Microsoft for Africa Academy, on the Africa Working Initiative that targets to train up to 250,000 youth with the most sought-after skills in Kenya and South Africa. Why is it becoming so difficult for youth in Africa to get jobs? Is it that the jobs are not being created, or they don't have the skills to take those jobs?
Yeah, I think the situation of youth in Africa is difficult from at least 2 or 3 different perspectives. One, as we all know, the percentage of young people in Africa, which is also an asset, is extremely high, right? So depending on which statistic you look at, half of the African population is young. So millions and millions of new, employable, ready people are hitting the marketplace every year. That's just a number that is hard for any economy to absorb. The other driver, I think, of youth unemployment is our economies are changing faster than ever before in history. And being able to represent the right skills becomes more and more of a challenge. I think those two things coming together.
Now, as Africa Working Initiative, you'll train at least 250,000 youth across Africa by 2020. What is the gap that this initiative is looking forward to fill?
The Africa Working Association has made 2 promises. We're looking at how can we increase employability of young people so they can find a job. And we said is, how about striving for 200,000 in our first attempt? And then we also said is, but we need job creation, which basically is entrepreneurship. And so we also said is we need, or want to create 50,000 young new entrepreneurs that otherwise wouldn't have existed. So those 2 things are coming together.
Yeah. And why is it important for such high-profile businesses to create synergies and drive one initiative towards a common goal?
I think one of the most important things about Africa Working is it's an industry association that is trying jointly together to solve a problem. What we observed is Microsoft and our 6 co-founders is that all of us are doing things in silos, right? We have investment programs, we have skills programs, there's mentoring, coaching, you name it, and they all exist side by side, which means we can't connect the dots. We're reinventing the wheel in many areas, especially when it comes to technology, and so the combined impact is limited because of that. So I think the uniqueness of the companies coming together is that we want to pull our resources together. That we believe by different industries coming together, representing different areas, we can actually make the biggest impact.
Help us understand the model of how this is going to work. Are you going to set up training schools across Africa, or maybe online platforms?
So bearing in mind, again, we just launched the association, so we have kind of the version 1 of our attempt. But what we decided to do is there already exists quite a bit of solutions out there, often platforms that we can reuse, and we have decided to start with 2 platforms. One happens to come from Nord, the leading learning company, which is their employability engine and training and learning engine that we will heavily utilize. The other one is from Microsoft called YouthWorks. That is an entrepreneurship and startup engine that we want to use as well. But those are the starting points. As we grow and continue to invent, we will probably end up doing different things that are specifically useful for the industries and countries we want to serve.
You're starting with Kenya and South Africa. What would be your assessment of the quality of human capital in these 2 economies?
I would say both of those industries are striving and growing. They are obviously a slightly different level in their development yet. One could argue that the human capital development in South Africa is a little bit more advanced. But when you step back, Charles, and you look really at what the situation is, for a lot of young people, especially the ones that had not the privilege to go to a very prestigious college and university, their situation when it comes to employability or starting up a business entrepreneurship are very comparable. So we think that our investment in both countries will be super beneficial.
Now, it's been said for a long time that the academic institutions do not have the employer in mind when training. Why is it taking too long to create synergies between academia and industry?
The unemployment problem is a global problem. So even in the highly developed countries, the US, Europe, you name it, youth unemployment is typically twice as high as the average one. It's a structural, systematic problem. So the relationship that we want to have with the education system is, if they want our opinion, if we can influence them to prepare even better, we're there to help. But in the meantime, we are augmenting what they do, for example, through internships or specific learning programs, so that the young people that are eager to find jobs and opportunities don't get stranded.
Now, finally, just a few weeks ago, we had Africa Management Initiatives say that, in a survey, say that, the training initiatives by corporates in Kenya and elsewhere across sub-Saharan Africa are not effective. They are becoming outdated. There's need to focus on individual talents. Do you agree on this, and is this an agenda you wish to drive with something like Africa Working?
Yeah, we absolutely have to make sure that Africa Working, in what we do, the outcome is 100% employability or the ability to start a company. And in fact, what the individual members bring to the table. So for example, Microsoft already has existing systems. Nord has already existing learning systems. We can already prove on a smaller scale that we can indeed create employability. If there's other programs out there that kind of lost touch with what's needed today, they probably have to step back and revisit where they are. Or our invitation would be, why don't you join Africa Working? Because it's an open platform. We started with 7 companies. We're actually talking to about 10 others as we speak. But we want that association to grow quickly so that we really bring our best idea and best practices all to the table.